American West. Fascinating, colorful. The place where history combines with myth. The West of your imagination, the legends, the towns, and characters you've grown up with in the movies. It's all here at Old Tucson. Welcome to Old Tucson. You know, through the years, I've been fortunate to spend a lot of my time working out here. In fact, for me and many other actors, Old Tucson is like a second home, known as Hollywood in the desert. With over 200 production credits, that's what Old Tucson is to many of us and to visitors from all over the world who come here in search of the Old West. Today, Old Tucson offers more than ever a new spirit, a special excitement with an overwhelming sense of American history. Movie history in the making. And an exciting lineup of first-class shows and entertainment. There's no other place like Old Tucson. Old Tucson's story begins in 1939, a classic year for the movies. Columbia Pictures began production of Arizona, to be shot on location in the southern Arizona desert. Scouts for Columbia selected a site in the Abra Valley, just 12 miles west of the town of Tucson, to become the setting for the story of Phoebe Titus. The popular Jean Arthur was cast in the role of Phoebe, with a young newcomer, William Holden, as her co-star. Columbia Pictures was making Hollywood history, with a budget of $1.5 million and a set to be constructed in a remote area. Arizona was big news. Pima County granted use of the location, and Columbia went to work. Using photographs and blueprints from Tucson's archives, builders created an authentic replica of the city as it was in the 1860s. The community came out to help with construction. Adobe bricks were handcrafted on the site. A young student at the University of Arizona, artist Ted DeGrazia, along with hundreds of Tucsonans and Native Americans from the area's reservations, pitched in. The sets, now called Old Tucson, were completed in 1939. The movie Arizona opened to great fanfare in 1940 and launched the career of William Holden to stardom. World War II brought a halt to the excitement stirred by Arizona and other great westerns of the time. Old Tucson became a ghost town under the desert sun. After World War II, Hollywood took off its military uniform and strapped on its 6 guns. The set of Arizona was rediscovered, and Old Tucson began to grow as each production added new sets to the town. More than a dozen films were shot here in the decade following the war. Movies like The Last Outpost, starring Ronald Reagan, Glenn Ford's 1956 classic, 3:10 to Yuma, Gunfight at the OK Corral, the historical drama starring Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas, and television's The Lone Ranger and the Lost City of Gold. In 1958, director Howard Hawks chose Old Tucson as the site for Rio Bravo. The town was transformed. Set designers and carpenters converged on the movie location to construct a new street, Front Street. Rio Bravo and its star John Wayne brought notoriety to Old Tucson. The once nearly forgotten set was itself about to become a star.
The first time I saw Old Tucson in the 1950s, it was a ghost town. I wanted to save it and bring it back to life and let everyone enjoy it as I did. With friends who felt the same way, we started the restoration and opened Old Tucson in 1960. By 1961, John Wayne came along to make a great Western called McClintock. That started a relationship with the Duke that lasted for a long time as he became a partner in Old Tucson.
Visitors came to Old Tucson to experience firsthand the adventure and excitement of the Old West, just like they saw in the movies. Shootouts were recreated on Front Street.
What are you gonna do with it?
A narrated tour on a narrow gauge railroad was added, and stagecoaches were hitched up for the visitors. The 1960s and 70s were the golden age of Westerns. Walking through the town is like reliving favorite scenes from great Westerns of the past. Front Street, Old Tucson's main street. To the south is a vast, open valley. North, a rugged mountain range. Spectacular background from every camera angle. Some of these buildings have changed faces over the years as each production added its own special touches. But you can easily recognize the street's character. Here, John Wayne returned 4 years after Rio Bravo to film McClintock. Then, in 1965, the Duke returned to shoot El Dorado, also starring Robert Mitchum and James Caan. Paul Newman worked here in Hombre. Director John Landis added new fronts to a row of buildings for Three Amigos, which starred Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, and Martin Short. Much of the Duke's Rio Lobo was filmed here. And at this set today, the Rio Lobo Cantina and Pond are still much the same as they were the day the Duke last rode into town. John Wayne contributed much to Old Tucson's history and to the American legend.
John Wayne was nominated for his role in True Grit, and he went to California to attend the Academy Award ceremony while they were here shooting Rio Lobo. And he attended the ceremony, which he won an Oscar for True Grit. So he returned to the set the next morning, flew back, and when he came on the set, all the cast and crew were looking away from him. And when he got out of his car and walked into the set, everyone turned around and they had an eye patch on, which is what he wore in True Grit. We even had one for his horse. So he got a little teary about that, but it was a lot of fun. We even built a great big 20, 30-foot high Oscar, so he'd see it in the back gate when he drove through to come to work here at Old Tucson.
In contrast to Old Tucson's Front Street, Kansas Street depicts an early 1900s Midwestern town. The clapboard fronts were built in 1968 to disguise an exterior wall of Old Tucson's soundstage. But the old facades also give filmmakers more location options. Kansas Street was featured on several episodes of Bonanza through the years. It became Mankato, Minnesota for television's Little House on the Prairie. For Father Murphy, it was the booming metropolis of Jackson in the Dakota Territory. And as you walk up the street, you come to Courthouse Square. The magnificent courthouse building was built for the film Joe Kidd with Clint Eastwood. Kirk Douglas brought Bruce Dern to justice here in Posse. The 1872 Reno locomotive is another showcase of the town square. The Reno came to Old Tucson in 1970 after an illustrious movie career with MGM and years of service on the Virginia Truckee Railroad. The Reno is the oldest operated steam locomotive in the United States. She continues to star in movies and fascinates railroad buffs who come to visit her from around the world. Many TV shows like Gunsmoke and Death Valley Days shot episodes here during the 60s and 70s. But there is one series I recall very well that for 5 years called Old Tucson home, the High Chaparral. Even today, lots of folks come to Old Tucson to see where the Cannon family lived and worked and rode off into the sunset. An important addition to this historic ranch set is Fort Reunion, built in 1989 for the ABC series Young Riders. Old Tucson's Mexican Plaza was a predominant set in the movie Arizona and continues to be an active location for both Westerns and non-Westerns. Director Hal Needham dressed the Mexican Plaza as a modern-day ranch of ill repute for Cannonball Run Part 2, starring Burt Reynolds, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, and Shirley MacLaine. The plaza also appeared as a south-of-the-border village in Hallmark Hall of Fame's Stones for Ibarra, starring Glenn Close and Keith Carradine. And in an episode of Heart to Heart with Robert Wagner and Stephanie Powers, a helicopter landed in front of the mission. This 13,000 square foot soundstage is used for all kinds of films and TV shows. Interior scenes for Revenge of the Nerds, Webster, and Highway to Heaven were shot here. This permanent set, the Royal Oak Saloon, has served a lot of movie whiskey. It was built in 1968 for the movie Young Billy Young, starring Robert Mitchum and Angie Dickinson. Guests at Old Tucson learned some of the techniques of movie making during a spectacular special effects presentation in the Royal Oak Saloon as part of the Soundstage tour. Old Tucson provides a rare opportunity to those lucky enough to visit during a filming day. When a production is underway, guests can get a first-hand look at movie making. Some may catch a glimpse of Elizabeth Taylor, Kenny Rogers, Michael Landon, Johnny Cash, or Willie Nelson. Old Tucson is important to the movie industry. The nostalgia of the classic Western movie will overwhelm everyone who walks down our streets. But the excitement and adventure of spending a day in this Arizona town is more than a stroll through history. A day in Old Tucson includes action-packed showdowns, performances which have been called the best of their kind in the world.
You're gonna stumble over the truth, you're gonna have to cancel your necktie party. Hey, listen here, man. We're gonna give you a fair trial, nice and legal-like, and then we're gonna hang you. Yeah. There he is. All right, get your neck. You'll never take me alive.
Old Tucson's professional cast share their behind-the-scenes secrets in the lighthearted Wild West stunt show.
Yes, folks, looks like it's big time wrestling time here at Old Tucson. We're gonna head to attack on that clothesline. Takes it on the feet.
Meeting the characters of the Old West presents photo opportunities you can't find anywhere else. Stopping by the local saloon reveals some beautiful scenery. The audience gets into the act at Dr. W.W. Weezer's medicine show. The Old Time Photo Shop invites guests to dress up as their favorite characters for a souvenir photo. An authentic stagecoach takes passengers on a unique excursion. The C.P. Huntington offers a narrated tour through the back lot and all around town. Silver Lake Park recaptures the fun and nostalgia of a turn-of-the-century carnival. restaurants offer everything from real Western barbecue to old-fashioned ice cream sundaes. One of the best things about Old Tucson is simply wandering around town, seeing for yourself the movie history made here and walking in the footsteps of the stars, discovering the hundreds of sets and buildings so familiar as the sites of your favorite movies. There's the Simmons Gun Museum with more than 1,000 historical weapons. The Boardwalk Hall of Fame, featuring the stars who have worked at Old Tucson. Many of the interior sets offer exclusive frontier shops. Old Tucson is a special place, historically significant, yet full of surprise and fun. This famous studio is the only place in the world where movie stars come to work and movie fans come to play, often together. Tucson. Its story continues as production companies and millions of visitors continue to capture its photographic charm for movie audiences and family albums. So just like Hollywood, bring your camera, share the memories of the past, and be part of the great memories of the future.